From the hills beyond the River Ouse, you see York before you enter it. England's second city rises from the Yorkshire plain like a crown of limestone and timber. 40 church spires puncture the sky, bells already audible from a mile away. At the center, York Minster towers above everything, a Gothic mountain of carved stone, western towers wrapped in scaffolding where masons have worked for generations. The city walls trace a perfect circuit, 3 miles of Roman limestone enclosing red-tiled roofs, smoking chimneys, and narrow streets where 30,000 souls live and work. Beyond the walls, the River Ouse curves through water meadows, barges moving slowly upstream from Hull. This is autumn 1470, and York stands at the height of its medieval glory. You enter through Bootham Bar and walk toward the Minster, which draws every eye like true north. The cathedral soars 70 feet, its vaulted ceiling ribbed with stone that seems impossibly delicate. When morning light strikes the great east window, the largest medieval glass in England, the floor ignites in color. Ruby, sapphire, emerald, gold. Genesis to Apocalypse, rendered in thousands of glass pieces. An old woman kneels before St. William's shrine, holding a beeswax candle worth 3 days' wages. Her daughter burns with fever. Physicians want a shilling, 7 days' wages, so she bargains with God instead. Faith here is transaction, hope, and the only insurance most have against disaster. But the Minster is also political power. Archbishop George Neville, brother to the Earl of Warwick, presides here. In the chapter house, aldermen meet canons to negotiate grain prices and settle guild disputes. God's business and commerce are inseparable. A bell tolls prime, marking first light. Descending into the commercial heart, you enter the Shambles, where York feeds itself. Timber buildings lean so close that neighbors on upper floors could shake hands across the lane. The street runs perpetually damp, cobblestones slick from butchers' washing. Thomas Barker works in his shop surrounded by hanging carcasses, sheep from the moors, cattle from Durham, pigs from local farms. His apprentice Jack, 9 years old, scrapes tripe into a bucket, hands raw. Thomas joints a sheep with 5 cleaver strikes. A woman inspects mutton, calculating meals and pennies. "Tuppence," Thomas says. 19 pence, she counters. They settle between. Commerce works face to face, penny by penny. Around them, hammers on anvils, cartwheels on cobblestones, vendors calling prices, church bells marking hours. The air carries wood smoke, baking bread, leather being cured, and always the river. The River Ouse flows through York like a vein carrying the city's lifeblood. At King's Staithe, barges unload Baltic timber, Flemish cloth, Bordeaux wine, Spanish iron. Dock laborers, 20 men earning tuppence for 12 hours, haul cargo in practiced rhythm. William Croft has worked these docks since 12. He is 40 now, back already bent. 3 streets away, merchant Robert Walmgate sits before glass windows. Before him, Latin ledgers, letters from Bruges and Antwerp, contracts for wool sacks worth £1,500. His wife Eleanor reads their Antwerp agent's letter. Wool prices falling. She calculates faster than Robert's counting board, suggests holding shipment until spring. He nods. £1,500 hangs on Eleanor's arithmetic, yet law will never recognize her as partner. Their daughter Margaret, 14, practices letters, preparing for marriage to a boy she has met twice. She will bring £200 dowry, and the expectation she will do what her mother does: manage servants, keep accounts, run the business when her husband travels, remain legally invisible. This is York's merchant elite. International trade managed from timber houses, fortunes risked on credit across the North Sea, women doing half the work with no legal recognition. By mid-morning, York pulses with routines, keeping 30,000 people fed and sheltered. Baker William Harrington slides the 40th loaf into his oven. Awake since 3, his apprentices have hauled 16 water buckets. 3 breads for 3 classes. Manche, fine white bread, costs 3 pennies. Raveled bread, wheat and rye, costs 2 pennies. Maslin, barley and oats for the poor, costs 1 penny and must feed a family all day. Old Beatrice buys yesterday's bread for a halfpenny, clutches it like salvation. That loaf is dinner, breakfast, and hope her grandchildren won't cry from hunger. At the market cross, brewer's widow Agnes Gill sells ale from buckets. She earns a shilling weekly running the brewery her husband left. Work guilds officially forbid women, but necessity makes them look away. Her hands bear scars from boiling mash, her back permanently bent from barrels. Beside her, midwife Joan Mercer sells feverfew and pennyroyal. She delivered 17 babies last month. 3 died. Mothers paid 6pence for living children, nothing for dead ones. No time for grief when the next labor begins. Children work everywhere. 7-year-old Alice hauls water 8 trips daily. 10-year-old Peter sweeps a goldsmith shop for a farthing, lungs slowly filling with metal dust. York exists in the shadow of England's Civil War, though fighting rarely reaches the city itself. It is 1470, 15 years into the Wars of the Roses. Edward IV of York sits on the throne, but his grip is uncertain. Warwick the Kingmaker plots to restore deposed Lancastrian king Henry VI. Here in the city that gave the Yorkist cause its name, citizens navigate uncertain loyalties. The city maintains 100 soldiers who patrol walls and inspect travelers. At Micklegate Bar, consequences of choosing wrong are visible. Traitors' heads on iron spikes, weathering in Yorkshire rain. The practice reminds citizens that, in civil war, today's loyalty might be tomorrow's treason. In the Swan Tavern, men speak carefully. Tavern keeper Thomas Skelton serves ale and listens without comment. A merchant complains war disrupts trade. A carter curses royal taxes. A weaver praises the king's order. Thomas hears all, repeats nothing. Most Yorkers simply try to keep working, keep trading, keep families fed. Politics is for lords and wealthy merchants. For everyone else, the war is background anxiety. Pressure that never lifts. Worry that some forced decision might prove catastrophically wrong. When bells ring curfew at 8, the city transforms. The 4 gates close, oak doors barred with iron. The watch, 12 men with clubs and lanterns, patrols main streets. But much of York goes dark and unwatched. Most people go to bed. Candles are expensive, winter nights long. In merchant houses, tallow candles provide light for more work. Robert and Eleanor Walmgate review ledgers while Margaret sleeps upstairs, and servants bed on straw in the hall. In Agnes Gill's house, there is no light. She and her daughters huddle in one bed for warmth, fire extinguished to save fuel. They lie in complete darkness, listening to rats, waiting for dawn. At midnight, Minster bells toll for matins. In the dark cathedral, monks sing plain song through Gothic arches. The song has echoed here 200 years. It will continue for centuries more. York's rhythm is dictated by seasons more than any king. Winter is hardship. The ouse sometimes freezes solid. Food stores dwindle. Livestock slaughtered in autumn becomes salt meat running low by February. The poor survive on old grain and hope. Spring brings relief and danger. Snowmelt swells the ouse, sometimes flooding lower city. But spring also means planting, and first strawberries in June are small miracles. Summer brings abundance, markets overflow, but also dysentery and plague fear. Autumn is harvest anxiety. The city watches countryside, praying for good yields. Failed harvest means winter starvation. When grain comes in and prices stay stable, relief is almost physical. Another year survived. This is life at the mercy of weather, always one disaster from catastrophe. At sunset, you walk the walls Romans built 14 centuries ago. From here, you see York entire. The minster's bulk, 40 spires, red roofs glowing copper, the river winding through. Beyond, villages, farms, moors rising dark westward. The walls are 3 miles in circuit, 20 feet high, punctuated by 4 great gates controlling all entry. Each gate is its own fortress. These walls have protected York from Vikings, Scots, baronial sieges. They define who is citizen and who is stranger, who belongs inside protection of law and guild. But walls cannot stop disease, cannot guarantee harvests, cannot prevent civil war from eventually forcing York to choose sides. The walls offer physical safety, but deeper anxieties, famine, plague, political catastrophe, respect no barrier. The sun sets behind western walls. Church bells ring Vespers. 40 towers, 40 voices washing over the city. You have walked York for one autumn day in 1470. You have seen bakers rise before dawn, butchers joint meat with precision. Merchants gamble fortunes on distant markets. Widows run businesses. Law says they cannot own. Children labor in shops, and an entire city navigate the space between prosperity and precarity. This is medieval York, not romantic tapestry, but a working city where survival depends on skill, endurance, and luck, where beauty and hardship coexist, where the Minster reaches for heaven while the Shambles runs with blood and water. In 15 years, the Wars of the Roses will end at Bosworth Field. The Tudors will rise. York will decline as London grows dominant. The medieval world will begin its transformation. But in 1470, that future is unwritten. Today, bells ring, bread bakes, the Ouse flows. 30,000 souls do what humans have always done. Wake, work, eat, pray, sleep, and hope. Tomorrow brings no catastrophe worse than today's struggles. The Minster stones will outlast the wars. The walls will outlast the kingdom. The street plan will endure. And though 5 centuries separate that York from ours, the rhythm feels familiar. Quiet anxiety of uncertain times, grinding labor of making a living, hope that skill and care will be enough. York endures. So do its people. That is the only victory that matters. The bells ring. The city wakes. The work begins again.